Hi there, everybody. My name is Kate, and welcome to my channel, Firehorse Academy, formerly known as Trinergy Awakens Naturally. Thank you for joining me. Welcome. So I want to talk to you today about a pretty large, chunky concept that helps to separate people. In my mind, helps to separate what my mission is here versus what some other people's mission or non-mission or their life, whatever it is, whatever their story might be, and how it applies to me, because I personally subscribe to a very different lifestyle, and I always have. I've always been interested in being of service to humanity and moving in that very humanistic understanding of pain and empathy, and not knowing for many, many, many years that I was an empath and that I was going to be taking on the burden and the emotional debt for other people around me, without understanding that that's the gift of being the empath that I came here to be. Without understanding that, though, however, we're oftentimes driven into very humanistic behaviors and, activism, and feeling the pains, excuse me, and the pangs for all of humanity. It's difficult to watch other people suffer, etc. And one of the fundamental differences between that ideology and the not so much about that, can't really understand it, is that one of the fundamental differences that is difficult to understand is that people who are high empaths, high sensitives, light workers, starseeds, many people like this are service to others. That is their premise, that is their understanding. They have transcended the idea of service to self, which is the old paradigm. The age of Pisces is all about service to self, and that's why you see it falling down, because there's no way to hold those two counsels in balance at the same time, where we are servicing self exclusively or we are servicing others exclusively. There is a fine balance. However, we've been over in the hardcore, pretty much investigating service to self, and really don't care how this affects anybody else, because in the ego development, in the spiritual development and the soul evolution, part of higher consciousness is going through the stages of that development as a civilization, and as individual players within, a bandwidth of civilization. And the human consciousness has been manipulated and controlled in some very damaging ways that took away the ability to really fully understand all of the knowledge that was truly available to us, to understand more clearly how not to get it to this point of service to self just really doesn't work. And the fact that we're here and we still are struggling to figure that out, that would play into the Dolores Cannon's discussion of volunteers, etc. You just have people here who are already preset, pre-wired, blue rays, light workers, starseeds, like I said, whomever you are, whomever they are, whoever we are. It is not a matter of better or worse. It's a matter that service to self at this point is going to be experienced very differently, and probably worse exponentially, versus those that are really here to bring about change, help, and healing for the planet, the service to others. That is what Jesus talked about, a few thousand years ago, a couple thousand years ago, and the prophecies before him of other Messiah types. There were quite a number of them. So, pick any one of the stories that has prophesied that the death of the ego is necessary in order to transcend service to self, because for as long as we are meeting the egoic need before we meet anything else, then it's going to be that path of destruction in the age of Pisces that it has been. And the age of Aquarius is, conveniently enough, all about collaboration. So it's about turning to those around us in the unified field that is around us and that we are in, that we're creating and we're building, that we have found our safety, and we can look around and begin to really trust and forge and build those relationships that are healthy, and we can trust those connections to be you for me, bro, you for me, yeah, and I'm for you. And it's that exchange that feels like, oh, okay, I'm not really truly in this by myself, or when I desperately need someone and everybody else is running too scared, then I find out that all of that I thought was there really isn't there, that we in fact have begun to build and forge those relationships where those strengths and those bonds and those trust factors really are reliable. You can hop up and down on that and test it a million times, and after a while you just will be bored to even want to try, because it's so solid that that. And very few people on this planet right now, unfortunately, are experiencing that depth of passionate commitment to other excuse me, human beings. Those human beings that are demonstrating that, those are the very people that are hardwired already, as part of their mission on the planet to be of service. We already come here knowing I've got a job to do. It's something out here, something to do with helping you. It's only a matter 555 of how do I help you, meaning how do I reach out and be of service to humanity, while I'm also taking care of me. Being of service to me implies, and I mean this as that implication, that I'm only serving me and there isn't anything, there is no humanity, because we're all just a big bunch of me's, that if we can get away with whatever we're trying to do, it's because the other me's around me couldn't do what I do. So, oh well, poor you. And that's really not what service to others is about. That's service to self, and there isn't anything else. And so it's going to, of course, fly in the face of service to others. Means we have to give up a lot of those things that have brought, seeming comfort. And yet, if we look around, we can see the instability of people finding out that my relationships did not, in fact, mean what I thought they meant to me, or my job, or my money, or my, health, or whatever is failing, whatever those areas of weakness in our thought process, in our systems, in our connections, in our grids, wherever those systems are weak, that's where we find the failures. And it is a matter of beginning to turn the efforts to those around us with a very compassionate eye, and without going inside to find that compassion for self. It might be more difficult, not necessarily. However, we can often get into those, taking the compassion that we're desperately wishing to feel for ourselves and displacing that onto someone else, who then becomes our burden at a time when that's service to you. And I'm billing that as service to others. However, that's a you thing, that I'm here, being exclusively of service to you, and that would be for the other person receiving a service to self, because service to self means I consume whatever I want to everywhere around me, and I have no concern, no care, no bother with what that will do to anything that's in my path. It doesn't matter, because the path of destruction, the spectre trail that I leave behind, is not my concern. It's there for somebody else to figure out how to clean that up, because I certainly am not responsible for that either. I'm just here to consume life, take a big old bite, big old honking bite out of that, and enjoy that, savor that, and just really rip roar and enjoy that before I get out of here. That's the service to self, obviously. So if we're consuming the selves of other people in any way whatsoever, or we're allowing ourselves to be in that dynamic with somebody else, then that is absolutely, a red flag, huge honking red flags that are blaring, alarm sounds that it is time to understand service to self, the service to others and service to self. The distinction at this point is that the service to self people are finding, they don't have all the resources, because they're codependently, interdependently, and toxically connected in all kinds of places, where the octopus had its little, squeeze and its suction on some stuff that turned around, bit it, and gave it some, very nasty little bite mark that they're not happy with. And all of those little tentacles that are doing that are making it very uncomfortable for the system to maintain itself, while it's also also losing its life force and its energy and its ability to be the raging octopus with, endless Medusa snake-like things coming out of it, causing damage everywhere. People waking up and figuring out that, maybe helping my neighbor is a good idea. Maybe, helping myself so that I can be a better worker at the job that I do. Maybe it's time for me to think about you, and how I can help you. And so many people have spent their lives really truly being in that old paradigm, which is, makes sense if we have never known another new paradigm. But you have clear distinction between the givers and the takers. Really, quite frankly, now it's not a matter of goody two shoes and better. These are, we're still people. Everybody's a human being on this platform. It's a matter of how are we going to work with the information we have, and whether we, inherently understand and perform music because we just have a Mozart skill, or not. If we can perform after practicing 12 hours a day and 12 years in a row and, get to the same end result, and we're thrilled with that, then what difference does it make how, inherently natural the skill or the talent is, and it's bringing me bliss and happiness? Then how about we develop the skill of teaching one another empathy and how to sit down at a keyboard when it is easy for me. How about I sit down, here and begin to show you, because no matter how you get to that joy point of enjoying the sounds of what your fingers are making or what you're singing, or 11:11, how you're experiencing the melodies of life, until we get there, you need a coach, you need some help, and you need a teacher and help you work on your pedagogy. If you've already kind of got the basics, no problem, I can do that, and we'll learn together, because I'll learn how to be a better teacher of you specifically, and you'll learn how to do life perhaps a little more strategically. 11:33 just passed, in a way that seems to serve your soul, to learn how to sing and play musically and understand all of these themes and counterpoint, etc., and all of the theory behind this and all of the practice of it, because it nourishes your soul. And that is how we would contribute into the life of another person. We wouldn't have them at that point of vulnerability and asking and begging for help. And then if we're kind people and we're, service to others, we invite them in to pay a fair wage, or even for free if, we're already there, but we invite them in to fairly exchange the gift and what they're bringing, which is their willingness to learn. That is a gift in and of itself, that we're not trying to teach empty people that don't want to know, very filled up stuff. They got no room for it. If they're not opening the door, even though they're empty and dry, don't open your mouth. There's no way I can get that water in there. So holy water or not, it won't be doing its job if it's not inside of you. And so when we're reaching into the world and showing someone else, here's a way to, investigate your creativity today. Let me see if I can help you. And we hook up those people who are good at the inherent natural skill of sharing themselves and being able to hold the empathy and the capacity to understand the greater good for all of the system, all of Gaia, all of humanity, all of the system throughout divinity, the universe, whatever your grandest picture idea is beyond Earth 1313, I mean that, and beyond everything I don't see or everything you don't see, all of that, which is far greater than being very isolated to just service to me. That does not open up into the frequency of the wide open universe. It opens into the wide open, limited frequency of me. And it might be interesting for a while, maybe even a few hundred lifetimes or so, however it's time, bro, to go on to something else, because service to self means we pick each other up off the mat where we've been beating each other's asses for long enough. And it's time, to just kind of get to the point where we can sew everything back in and, pick up all our pieces and, crawl off, do off, get off, move off, be carried off, whatever it is, and do our healing time in places where, that's safe to do, and then come back later and be able to look at what was our opponent in the past and say, wow, whatever it was that took you there, if there's something I can do to help you to never do that again, because I can promise you, friend, that was uncomfortable and painful, and we can sustain those conversations too. Those are the most powerful healings that will occur between human beings who want to be of service to me, to you, not just to self. They are of service to the collective good. The mission overall is the collective good, period, whatever it takes. So anyway, I hope this finds you well and enjoying your day no matter what part of the day you're in. 1444, and get within your skin, because you're divine, absolutely gorgeous, totally beautiful, serves you and humanity in a balanced way when you meet it, greet it, and speak to it honestly and ask a lot of questions. Do that. It handles the job just fine. Take care, and I'll see you again next time. Bye, beautiful friends. Mwah.